Okay, welcome everybody, and welcome to my special guest. I am very, very excited to be having the lovely Lisa with us this afternoon. Lisa, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
Yeah, thanks, Anne. So my name's Lisa Galley, and I'm basically a school readiness coach. And my business is called the School Run Mum, and I help first-time school mums normally to feel really informed and prepared when it comes to their children starting school. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Fantastic. Well, when I have my guest speakers on, Lisa, I always like to just get to know them, who they are and where they've come from. And with that in mind, I wanted to ask you, tell us a little bit about your childhood.
Oh, what a fantastic question, Anna.
Yeah, what was it like growing up for you? How many were in your family? Were you the youngest or the oldest? And how did that play out for you?
Well, I am the youngest, I'm the baby of the family, and I've got two sisters who are quite a bit older than me. One's 12 years older than me, and the other's 8 years older than me. So,
Wow.
Yeah, so I was a bit like an only child, really, growing up. So they were off doing their kind of school, teenage things. So, and I would spend a lot of time on my own reading books, and I was a bit of a bookworm, very imaginative, had a bit of a wild imagination. And yeah, so a lot of time on my own in my room making up stories. So you might hear my dog barking now. So my husband's just got home from work.
That's all right.
Yeah, so yeah, and I grew up in the Midlands, in Stafford, we're in the Midlands. So
okay,
yeah.
Very good. So were you in the countryside or in the town? And
we were in sort of in a small town. Yeah, but my stepdad was brought up in Newport, Shropshire. So and his family lived on a sort of his dad was a gamekeeper at Capulet Estate, so we used to visit that quite a lot. So so yeah, I spent quite a bit of time in the countryside as well.
Yeah, I think there's so much more freedom if you grow up in the countryside, isn't there, rather than in a town or a city, and you learn well, a lot more about risk taking, I think, don't you, if you grow up in the country rather than being in the city, where a lot of children now are overprotected, aren't they, really?
Yeah, I mean, we had the best of both worlds. We were very lucky, really. We got to run around and on this sort of country estate, which they lived and worked on. And yeah, we were very lucky. It was very safe, and we got to climb trees and all sorts of things. Teddy, shush. Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's fine. That's life, isn't it?
Teddy, shush.
Teddy, be good for us. Yeah. So what was school like for you, Lisa, growing up? What was that experience for you? Was it positive or negative or mixed?
Yeah, definitely mixed, really. I'd say initially at my first primary school, I had a bit of bullying. Oh, I'm going a bit wobbly there. I had a bit of bullying. So my mum moved me to another school, and I had a fantastic time after that. Loved school, loved secondary school, loved studying and learning, and so yeah, for me, I really enjoyed school. Loved exams. I was a bit strange like that, which kind of goes against everything that I believe in now about education and assessment. Completely goes against the grain. But yeah, I enjoyed school a lot.
So all that book reading when you were little paid off then, with all those.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely.
those exams. So you are a parent now yourself, and are you happy to tell us about your children and their ages and how you find it as a parent?
Well, my children are quite big now. So my youngest is 17. And then my daughter is 22 and my eldest son is 26. And I have two boys and a girl. Both boys are on the autism spectrum, so they're quite challenging when they were younger. So that's how my family sort of fits really. They're a lot older now.
Yeah, so my children are actually similar ages to you. Yeah, and I have one like you who is on the spectrum. He's got Asperger's, my eldest one. So that can be quite tricky, can't it, when you're parenting?
Yeah,
for sure. And did you find that your children had different temperaments? Because I'm always intrigued what that parents are told, and indeed I was told this myself, to parent all your children the same. But I just don't really agree with that, actually. And I was just interested in your view, because I think every child is unique, aren't they? And they have their own unique personality and temperament. And certainly what I did for my eldest child would be very different to what I did with my youngest child, because you know, my youngest is really high in sensitivity, and if I said boo to her, she'd end up in floods of tears. Whereas with my oldest child, you know, I could I scream and shout at him, you know, and he would just in one ear and out the other. It just didn't perturb him at all. I just wondered what your view was of your three children's personality, and have you adapted your parenting style to suit their personality like I did?
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds very similar. Actually, my daughter's is and was as a child very incredibly sensitive. So you would never need to raise your voice at her at all. She would just, you know, that would mortify her, and still does now, actually, if she thinks that you're upset with her. There was no way that I could parent all my children the same, because they were just so different. The boys required very different input to my daughter, and I had to kind of adapt the style to fit them all, really, which could be really quite difficult, particularly with the boys who had different needs. Although they're both on the spectrum, they're very different in their personalities and in how they present as well.
I just realised that
you just realised you were recording.
Oh, that is so annoying, isn't it?
Oh dear.
Might have to ask some of those questions again.
That's fine.
Sorry. We had a little bit of a hiccup getting on, everybody, for one reason or another. So I inadvertently forgot to record. Sorry, Lisa.
That's okay.
Let's go back. Sorry for interrupting you.
That's fine. Just I absolutely agree with you. I think every child is very unique, and all three of mine are very different and deserved to be parented different as well. That, you know, definitely. Yeah,
I think a lot of parents fall into that kind of trap, really, isn't it? Trying to treat every child equitably, and you know, we're very conscious. So if I do it with this one this way, I've got to do it with that one that way. But that's not necessarily the case at all. The other aspect that I'm very interested in my work, and I wanted to see what your view was about parenting style, because often parents have a very different style of parenting, and I think if you're very lucky, you and your partner might be on the same wavelength with your parenting style, and sometimes you may not be, and that can sometimes be a little bit tricky, can't it, if there's conflicting parenting styles. I know some parents, you know, will be very authoritarian, so there's lots of rules and regulations, and you know, it's almost a military style kind of you know, path to parenting, whereas other parents might be a little bit more laissez-faire, you know, and anything kind of goes, you know, get up when you want, go to bed when you want, and then, you know, you have the neglectful parenting, of course, which neither of us are, or people in our group, but we know that neglectful parenting does go on, unfortunately. So did you find that your style of parenting was similar to your partner, or did you have to compromise a lot in your parenting? How did that work out for you guys?
That's quite interesting. I separated from my partner, my children's dad, when my youngest was 2.5. So we've co-parented for quite a long time, and I think we're very lucky that because we respected each other as individuals and parents, that although we had not drastically different in parenting styles, but we differed. We also supported each other with those boundaries. So the children learnt very quickly that actually they would be parented one way at one parent's house and another at another, and we would back each other up over that. Although we didn't always agree with certain decisions that we'd made, we just felt that for the children's sake it was better that we kind of did that. And of course children are quite savvy, and there were very many times that they would try and play us off each other, and but because we communicated quite well, then yeah, we were able to kind of still parent together over the major decisions. So yeah, we would generally, not 100%, but I would say about 98% back each other up on our decision making, so that kind of parenting worked quite well together. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the case for many children now, because there are so many blended families, and you know, the traditional family has gone out the window, so to speak. So it's really difficult for parents when they come together. They might have to, you know, flex their style, and but children are so adaptable, aren't they, Lisa? They just seem to be able to accept that this goes on in dad's house and this goes on in mum's house, and they just get on with it, really, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about what you did as your profession, and really what kind of led you into the work that you are now doing as a school readiness coach. So yeah, your professional background, what was that?
So I originally trained as a speech and language therapist, and worked in the NHS for many years, and then I worked, well, actually around about the same time as well, I worked as an autism specialist for Staffordshire schools. So I was working with schools and working with children that were at risk of exclusion.
Right.
And so working sort of helped to keep them in a mainstream classroom, which wasn't always the right decision, to be honest with you. So that was quite stressful. I worked in clinics with children with speech and language difficulties, which I absolutely loved. And then I unfortunately became quite ill and had to leave my profession. It's a very strange story, but I ended up illustrating a children's book about starting school. So a friend of mine had written this book and was looking for an illustrator, and it's something that I did before in a previous life, went to did art. So because I was sort of at home a lot and feeling a little bit like, oh, you know, I didn't have this career that I loved anymore, so I did this, illustrated this book. Yeah. And from there, really, is where the school run mum and school readiness came from, because we brought the book out just before COVID hit, really, and we didn't realise quite how important it was going to be. So a lot of parents were looking for that support with children starting school, with the sort of homeschooling and the back and forth. So it was a really difficult time for parents who had got children starting school. So the book became, you know, really helpful. And off the back of that, I had a lot of parents sort of contacting me to say, well, you know, what else can I do? And I realised that actually, as a speech therapist and working in schools, I had these skills already to help parents to prepare their children for school. And that's where I started the School Run Mum. That's where the business came from, really. It was kind of quite organic the way it developed, and from there it's just been absolutely amazing, and being able to help, you know, lots of families in a really difficult time. So yeah, that's that.
That's lovely. I think it's so needed, isn't it? I know as a parent, I'm very guilty of just focusing on getting their uniform ready, getting their shoes ready, their pens, their pencils, and all of that ready. And I thought that was what school readiness was all about. But of course, it's much, much more than that, isn't it, Lisa? So tell us a little bit about some of the work that you do, and I'm particularly around, you know, the emotional and kind of psychological readiness of school, because I think as parents, we forget that, don't we? And it's such a huge milestone in our children's lives, going from being at home all the time to going into this alien environment that we just have no control over anymore. And it must be so difficult, especially during COVID, as you said. Some of these children may not have been outside of the home even, let alone in a nursery or preschool environment. So it must be super scary for these children. So how can parents focus more broadly, not just on getting the shoes and the uniform ready and that's it, school readiness done?
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting talking to parents about what they do think school readiness means, and a lot of parents felt that school readiness involved academic things, so that actually they should be working on their reading and the writing with children, their numeracy, before they start school. And that's not at all about what school readiness is. We talk about school readiness as life skills, really. So we look at 6 key skills, and and really none of them are particularly academic at all. It's more to do with attention and listening, that a child, sort of like you were saying, has that confidence to leave their parents and be able to cope with that emotional resilience, those social skills of being able to interact with other children at school and make friends, and probably most importantly, those independent skills of being able to toilet independently, wash their hands, you know, eat with a knife and fork, all sorts of things that actually often schools find are lacking when children start school. And I think for me, there's almost this gap between nursery or preschool and school, where over the summer, I just feel like parents need this support so that transition is a lot easier emotionally and practically as well. And I think a big part of school readiness is about parents being ready. And a lot of parents have sort of said, actually, I need to be prepared. I need that information. If I knew what they needed to be able to do, or what they didn't need to be able to do, then, you know, I think then parents feel really empowered and that they know how to prepare their children for school. So yeah, it's just as much about what they don't need as much as what they do need. I think.
Yeah, I was a bit of a nightmare mum, I must confess, when my daughter started school, because she was high in sensitivity. I was one of these mums, you know, that would drop her off and then peer through the window to see if she had stopped crying. And I was a nightmare, because of course I was just making this situation worse. So totally. And I know what you said really resonated with me. It's actually, as a parent, us being, you know, emotionally and psychologically ready, as well as the child, because they pick up so much, don't they, on us and how we're feeling. And I mean, I had 3 boys before my girl, and, you know, but she was the one that just really struggled more so than the boys. You know, my first son just waved at me and said, "Bye, Mom, I'm off," you know, and he was happy to go. The other 2 were a little bit more resistant, but yeah, I think temperament has really got so much to do with it, and supporting mums through their own anxiety, really, and their own kind of, you know, worries about how they're going to be, and, you know, not transferring that to the child. So I know that you are doing some great work with parents. Could you tell us a little bit about the workshops that you're doing and what takes place in those, and how, you know, parents can get in contact with you to get onto those?
So what we run is, at the moment, we've got a group, a Facebook group, which is the School Ready Mums group, and in there's lots of free advice and support, and we've also got mums in there who've already got children at school who are supporting the first time school run mums as well, which is really great. Then we have a program which actually isn't open at the moment. That's just finished because we've sort of run it over the summer, which is the it's called the School Ready Story Set program. So everything that we do with regards to school readiness and helping children to be ready for school is all based on play, because children learn best through play. So the story stack, the whole program kind of revolves around the story stack and the book, the Starting School book. So it's all very play based. So that's a program that we will be opening up again sort of in a few months' time for the next sort of group of mums coming through. And Also, we've got a story club, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm really enjoying that, where we're working on those 6 key skills that children need for school, but through story time, interactive story time and games. And that's, again, that's a really nice non-academic way of working on those skills. We look at understanding sounds and attention and listening skills. We even sort of look at independent skills as well. The children don't even know they're learning. It's so much fun. And we'll be opening up subscriptions to that in September. So we've just done our first August trial, and then we'll open up the doors to that very soon. And also next year, parents will be able to work with me one-to-one. So we'll be able to tailor a programme very specifically to your child, because obviously, as you were saying before, children have got different needs, and some children are very independent but are lacking in those confidence skills, and some children, you know, just need that boost of confidence. And so we'll be able to tailor the programme specifically to your child, and also to support mums with that, you're saying, that the emotional support as well, through the year, through choosing a school, and all the process of finding out if you've got your placement and what to do if you haven't. It's a very emotional time for parents, and there's a lot of practicalities as well, which I think parents don't realise, and it can add a lot of stress. So yeah, it's going to be a service to support parents just as much as to support the children as well. So that's something that's going to be available very soon. But at the moment, if parents want to get involved, we've got the story club, and we've got the Facebook group, and the website's got lots of little things on there as well that you can access.
Okay, that would be lovely if you can give me all those contact details, your website, your Facebook. I will post them into the group. But I just wanted to get clarity about your workshops. How long do they run for, and who are they aimed at? Is it just school children starting into reception, or do you do transitions into secondary school as well? Just so
not at the moment. At the moment, it's aimed at children who are going up to reception class or preschool. And over the summer, we had a 6-week programme, which obviously spanned the summer, so that we worked on those key skills. It's going to be slightly different in that there'll be a choice of how long parents want to do that programme for. So it's going to be very tailor-made. I haven't got the full details on that yet. That's all kind of coming together now. But it will be kind of like weekly input with parents for either perhaps 3 months or 6 months, or you know, however long they feel they need that support.
And what would be the time commitment? Because we all know that parents are so busy, aren't they? Is it, you know, an hour, or how long is that workshop for? And can they dip in and out, or do they have to attend the whole workshop?
No, so I'd like to call it a programme rather than a workshop, because it's very much done at the speed that suits the parent and the child. So we always, what I've always said so far is 20 minutes a day commitment to the actual activities. So it's a story set that you dip in and out of, choose an activity, it's 20 minutes, and then you're working on a key skill, and then there'll be Zoom calls with parents, which will be about half an hour, and a Zoom call with a child, which will be about half an hour. So
you get the child involved as well.
So we'll be working on a bit like Story Club is delivered to a group of children. It will be to an individual child, and we'll be working on sort of those early phonics skills and attention and listening, and showing, sort of demonstrating to mum as well or parents how they can do that through the rest of the week. So it will be support for the parents, bit of work with the child, and then you've got your activity set to sort of dip in and out of.
Fantastic. So my last question really is, any hints or tips that you could give our parents, because the children are imminently going back to school, and I know some of my parents in the group will be thinking and worrying about that. And so what would be your top tips and hints that you could share with them in the time that we have left? Only a week or so, isn't it? They start
it's not long at all. I would say start now. trying to get their bedtime, if they've had sort of a later bedtime over summer, try now to start to try and gradually make it earlier and earlier, whether that's like 10 minutes a night, to start to get used to that routine for ready to go to school. I'd say do the route, do the school route as a practice, because often when we do things when they're calmer, it's so much easier, and you can talk your child through the route, or whether that's in the car or you're walking. Practice things like using their lunchbox. You know, I know we haven't got long left now, a week. You can still do things like that, so that it's not brand new to them when they start on the day. I always tell a story when I do some training about my daughter. My epic mum fail was that I bought my daughter a lunchbox when she first started school, and put it away for best. Didn't show it to her or anything. So on the first day of school, off she goes with a lunchbox. I popped a lunchbox at the top with her bag. When it came to lunchtime, she had no idea which one was her lunchbox. She didn't know how to open it because we hadn't practiced. And she got really, really upset. And that's something I'd say, definitely practice with your child play schools, and practice what lunchtime is going to be like. And you know, if they've got things they've got to unwrap or take tops off things, have a go at it beforehand. So, but just be kind to yourself as well. Just, you know, don't be too hard on yourself as a parent about sort of getting everything right, because none of us get it right at all. I've got a long list of things that I could say have gone terribly wrong, but yeah, I'd say just start to practice now, trying to get into that morning routine.
Yeah, I think they're brilliant tips, Lisa, and I've fallen into those traps for sure, where my children weren't prepared and ended up in tears and tantrums. And you know, school is hard enough, really, isn't it, for them, rather than us kind of setting them up for failure. What we want to do is give them those tools and empower them really to be independent. And yes, I can open up my lunchbox and I know where it is and what to do with it and everything else. So that has been really insightful. Thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
It. I'm sorry about the beginning that I didn't record, but what I will do is I'll share this in the group, and I'll share it to your group as well, if you just send me all those contact details, because I'm sure my audience would love to connect with you. So until next time, Lisa, thank you so much and have a great day.
Bye. Thanks, Anne. Bye.